And you can get pulled into seeing what's called the culture war. I think that's a poor phrase for it because ultimately it's a spiritual
Spirit,
war.
yeah,
It's not
totally.
left, right, it's heaven and hell. But if you take it too seriously, you are putting it on the same plane, on the same level, as if you've got these two powers, as in Manichaeanism. The Manichaean worldview of an equally powerful good and evil God battling it out. Whereas what you really have is order and then the absence of it, disorder. And you can just trust in the long run that no matter how frightening it might seem to begin with, ultimately reality will bat last. And these things haven't got the legs to sustain themselves, as history shows. There's that great line from that old 90s film, Blade, with Wesley Snipes in. At the end, he just says, before he kicks the vial of poison into this strange vampire that's been invented, he says, some motherfuckers are always trying to ice skate uphill.
Mm-hmm.
And that's it. That's ultimately what you see every time is the new project, the ice skating uphill. And you just have to wait for it to start sliding back down again and collapsing while doing what you can to undermine it. But not being afraid, because when you're afraid, you can't think clearly, you don't act well.
Yeah. When you're afraid, you participate in their game based on their rules, and then you end up ice skating right uphill, chasing them uphill. Why would you chase someone ice skating uphill? Like you don't need to pull them down. It's true. It's because what they're doing is borrowing some truth, and that's why the Manichaean that view. It's even like very sort of Buddhist in a way. I think it's Buddhism where it's like this equal, everything's even, just this even battle, and like you said. Good, evil can only be the absence of something, just like darkness is the absence of light. It doesn't have it might have its own thingness when we are vacant of good. Like we become the thingness because we're animated creatures. And so we can actually impact the world and we can say, okay, the actions of a person fully vacant of good, of God, doing the work of his own will, you could say that's evil, but not identical. Like in other words, you couldn't kill them and get rid of that, but they can in a way embody that. So I guess in a sense you could say there is evil, but it's always defined as the absence or privation of good. You can never define it on its own thing, and that's why that equal view of the battling doesn't work. Also, what you said is interesting. The skating uphill. I always look at let's say like these strong atheists who are arguing the non-existence of something that they believe doesn't exist and how silly it is to spend time arguing about the non-existence of something you already think doesn't exist. And it's like a liar living their life arguing that truth doesn't exist. Like they're like, I'm a liar, and then they're arguing that truth doesn't exist. And you're like, well, you can't fully ground that your own participation in your life because you need the truth. Like you can't be a liar without the truth. And that's like skating up a lot of ways, like skating uphill, because you're just constantly arguing something that you need the truth to even do your inversion. And so that's why you don't just sit and wait, but you watch and observe and use your discretion and your discernment and prayer and again hope that you do the right thing at the right time and such. But ultimately there's nothing to really panic about because it's all based on all the smart city stuff too. It's all based on the false premise that humans' ultimate really foundational desire is to just have conveniences and have stuff. It's false. It's just totally false. That's not our desire. If you look at all the places, find some poor family community in at the base of a mountain in Peru, and it's in their daily routine to get what they need, but it's not like their pursuit is given by their conveniences, their happiness in life. Let's say, even if I wouldn't agree with their theology, whatever it be, is that it's not given by just getting stuff, right? Getting the fish or getting the thing or doing the sheep. These are all just things that we're doing daily, but that's not what connects us to other people. It's not the thing, right? The thing is metaphysical. It's transcendental. That's love, compassion, understanding, overcoming anger, anguish, long suffering, sacrifice. These are not found in a tree. They're not found in any sort of scientific, method or a flask. And this is fundamentally what people need to be reminded of, is that they even your opponents, the technocrats, the Luciferians, the Satanists, they all are also still appealing to transcendental categories. Always. Just like in the beginning of this conversation, the scientism, its foundation is an ought, a telos, some future that can't be grounded by an experiment.